link up with your taxi driver as you want.
Your preferred taxi driver.
That's it.
Yes.
So you basically go, you select the taxi driver, you tap, you pair, you move.
Yes, you do.
If you pair with the taxi of your choice, you move. It's all about trust.
You can even pre-book.
And you can pre-book.
Yes.
The same with your
and agree
specific.
On the specific time and place.
With a specific driver.
With a specific driver.
Other apps will allow you to schedule a trip. You know, I want to move. For example, you'll be like Ian, who's our next guest. Maybe he said, I want to be in Spice FM tomorrow morning. I don't want these stories of driving on Mombasa Road or Expressway. Schedule a taxi. And because, Ian, you have a preferred driver who is on Maramoja, you actually also pair with that driver and say, I want driver Eric to come and pick me up from this place at this time on this day. And Eric will be told, you have a client who trusts you.
I like that.
It's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most importantly, it's Kenyan. And it's a big thing being Kenyan because you run one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Kenyan-owned serviced offices and co-working spaces. There are very many others in the country, but we know the one that's Kenyan. It's Horizon Offices. Karibu sana.
Santani sana.
Ian Kabiru is the managing director of Horizon Offices. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the hot seat of the Situation Room. How does it feel?
So far, so good. I hope it doesn't get too hot.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure being here. I've followed a lot of your conversations.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to having a good one here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We will have a good one. City will welcome you, for example, with the day's proverb. Every week, City goes around the country, the continent of Africa, and he picks a country and he says, let me give you proverbs from that country. This week, he's gone to a country in East Africa. The country borders Tanzania, it borders Uganda, it borders Somalia, it borders Ethiopia, it borders South Sudan, it borders the Indian Ocean. Guess which country?
My geography has been tested.
Yeah.
No? You know your geography. Just don't overthink it. Which country is it? It's very near you.
Did you say it's on the
Let me start.
Yes.
It borders, it's a country.
Mm-hmm.
It borders the Indian Ocean. It borders Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania.
Is that Djibouti?
No. He hasn't done too badly.
Mm-hmm.
Djibouti
It's
is
still within
several
the
hops
East Africa.
away.
Mm-hmm.
But let me make it warmer. You are in the country right now.
How about hot?
When you said hot. Oh, we're in Kenya.
Yeah, see, I told it wasn't difficult.
And I definitely overthought it.
Yes, you were overthinking
Yeah.
it, and then it can't. What his mind was telling him,
It can't be Kenya.
Kenya, exactly.
Yeah. Which other country? The proverb, City?
simple, straightforward proverb. Two watermelons cannot be held under one arm.
Two watermelons cannot be held under one arm. Yeah, what's your interpretation of
My
it?
interpretation of that is don't carry a load that is too heavy for you.
As a businessman, I'm sure that means a lot. Give it to us in the context of business. What would that mean? Don't carry a load that's too heavy for you.
I mean, there's a tendency to maybe to be too ambitious, to be too let's use the word greed, and you fail to operate within your own capacity. So I think you need to know what sort of capacity you have, and measure your opportunity, or what opportunity you're going to go for, based on what your capabilities are.
You need to measure your limits.
Measure your limits, yes.
Know your limits, right? And don't carry a load that you don't have to.
No.
If you just one watermelon is what you need, just carry that one.
Yeah.
If you don't have to carry a second, why are you trying to carry it? You're going to drop both. I know what happens when a watermelon falls.
It tends to smash and scatter.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because we live in a time when a lot of free thinkers and people who believe in the power of positive thinking will tell you that you are able to do anything and everything. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. There are things you actually can't do. There are things you need other people to help you do.
True.
You have a limit. Everybody has a limit.
Yes.
Horizon's offices. Tell us about it. What's it all about?
Founded the business 14 years ago. Actually, we're going to be 15 next year. So I was actually solving my own problem. I was, at that time, I was a serial failed entrepreneur. And you know, when you start up a business, the tendency is, you have your vision ahead of you.
Yeah.
You want to have a nice fancy office.
Yeah.
You spend all your money
On the nice fancy office.
on setting it up, because nobody sets up a business to fail. You know, you're really just, you have your eye on the prize. You can see the future ahead of you. And I had the misfortune or fortune, because the best learnings come from failure, of having started two businesses and having to go through the very painful process of closing them down. And the worst thing about it is when you're having to close that office. Nobody is interested in the asset. You actually end up spending money getting rid of your furniture, for example.
You spend money to get rid of
You actually
furniture that you
spend
bought.
money to get rid of furniture that you bought. Very painful. So having gone through this couple of times, I said to myself, there's definitely a need here. And they say that the best businesses, actually, if you want to identify a business that has got potential, look for a problem that needs solving. So that was a problem I set out to solve. So the business is, we have offices that we set up, so they're fully furnished. They're serviced. By service, what that means is your non-core staff, everybody from the guy who's opening the door for you, meeting at the reception, the cleaners, the IT support, all of that. Teas, coffees, all that. You have somebody else providing that service for you. And you focus on your own business. So that's a simple idea. But back then, nobody really understood it. So you can imagine it was quite a hard sell. You say, this is what we do. And before you can sell the product, before anybody even asks you how much it costs, they're asking you, what is that?
It's interesting because you premise that the business, and now you're looking at it with foresight, right? And you said that you started up the business because there was a solution that was being sought after, or there was a problem rather that needed a solution.
Problem, yes.
Yeah. So that was my question. Whose problem was it that you were solving at that time?
I was actually solving my own problem.
Your own problem,
Yeah.
right? In opening up this business.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I suppose you also, when you get, because having started off as a guy who'd gone through the corporate sort of path, where everything is sort of taken care of, and you really, you take things for granted, and then you're out in the cold, and you're having to, it's a very interesting thing when you're making that transition. You want that structure back. So I had to create it for myself. Then I discovered that, I wasn't alone. There are many of us. There were many of us at the time. So that was really the impetus that got me started on this path. So started off focusing on startups. But let me tell you, when you start selling space to startups, what you all realize is that you're all in the same struggle.
Yep.
So at the end of the month, you're waiting for people to pay you.
Yep. Everybody is looking to get money from somewhere else.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was a challenge because we were actually very invested in the businesses that we were hosting as well, because they were all in the same stage that I was. So we had very healthy books in terms of what we were billing, but what we were actually banking was a different thing. So those were the early days. But I think with these things, it's very important to have a vision. So for me, the vision was very clear that I wanted this to work. I wanted to, be an enabler. But I sort of cast my net a little bit wider to the African continent. So somewhere along my corporate journey, I found myself in West Africa. I had the opportunity to work in Ghana. I had the opportunity to visit Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire on a regular basis. And one of the things that I realized is that us Africans are not doing business with Africans. And I thought, if there's one thing I would like to do, if there's a small contribution that I can make to sort of unblocking this issue, then that's what I want to do. So that was actually my plan, So when you look at how we define ourselves and what differentiates us from everybody else, we consider ourselves to be a home to Africa's business. So what does that mean? It means that wherever you find Horizon's office outside Kenya, it gives you a soft landing, a place where you can work from. But it's not just the work. What we do is we're also connecting entrepreneurs or businesses that want to do business where we've been. We've operated in Lagos, we've operated in Accra. There's a lot of apprehension. If you ask, Eric, if I was to ask you, would you like to do business in Lagos? How would you respond to that question?
I mean, I wouldn't want to do business in Lagos. Because it's just the hecticity of it. It's just Lagos is a thumping 27-hour a day economy, and you have to have put some hair on your chest to do business in it.
Yeah, it's intimidating. It's definitely something you don't wake up and say I'm going to do business in Lagos yet.
What's intimidating about it?
I think the perceptions that have been built over the years.
Unfortunately, yeah.
CT, when I was posted to Ghana, in those days people thought Ghana, Nigeria was all the same place. In fact, they were asking me, so what did you do wrong? Why are they sending you there?
Why are they punishing you?
Why are they punishing you? And I had the option to go to South Africa or to go to Ghana. But it was the best thing. It was actually a life-transforming experience because I think one thing we don't realize as Kenyans is we have a lot to offer. Because we're not naturally endowed with all these resources, things that you bend down and pick up, pick up the riches from the ground. We are
the resource.
We are the resource.
Yeah.
So we take for granted our work ethic. We've got a fantastic work ethic. And I think at the time we were very few of us out there. But if you go there now, there's Kenyans.
We started and we got there.
We got there.
When you decided that in the early stages, like you've said, you had an idea. And then as you were rolling out the idea, you had to make several iterations. Learning experience. You realize that the people who are immediately getting what I'm talking about are the people who understand what I mean are the startups, because they have a need right now.
Right.
The corporates are wondering, boss, you have come to my office and you're telling me that you're going to give me the services for an office. Where are you? You're in my office. That means what? I'm sorted. So the initial guys who were getting the concept are those that needed an office.
Yeah.
But then you also realize that their working capital and inflows are not as good. And so you also have to think and iterate how else then you can move this business. So what did you do? How did this business morph?
Great question. And this is what I say about business. I think anybody that is considering business, the biggest impediment is the fear factor. The important thing is to get, as I say, get into the game.
Just start.
Because once you're there, then as you say, you start iterating and you start seeing where the opportunities are. And, and whether it's instinctively or whether you are, you just, as they say, you really are, it's sink or swim. So we pivoted. We moved from startups and we realized there was actually a need with the corporates. And I suppose that's where my experience as having worked in the corporate world came from, because I sort of understood the thinking of a corporate manager, and I understood, the way to position your offering. Particularly, as you say, why would you be offering a corporate an office? You need to look at it from their perspective.
Yep.
So you talk to the finance guys and you say things like, I can take your office assets off the balance sheet. It's more tax efficient. Or you can talk to an international company that is coming into a particular geography and they're not very sure whether this is going to work for them. So you can say, I will give you an easy exit. I'll give you the flexibility to exit before your lease is over. I'll take that hassle away from you. You will not have to, I told you pay for disposing of furniture. So those are the problems I was solving for them. And, with that in mind, but then, just sort of back to our own vision of what we were trying to do. We were trying to connect the continent. And, we've been able to, actually, the idea was to build, this network across the hubs on the continent. But you've traveled on the continent. You realize it's not that easy.
Certain parts are more difficult.
Certain airports, which we will come to.
To travel to than others.
Yes.
So let's see. So what exactly is on the table, Ian? So here I am, Ndu, budding, soon to be, mogul with offices in Nairobi, Accra, Abuja. What exactly is on the offer? What exactly does Horizon Solution then give me in terms of office space? I do not yet have that, 3-story building, whatever. What happens when I come to you?
We'll meet you at your level. So if you're starting up, so you want to test the waters. Let's say you want to test the waters in Lagos, for example. You could come to us and say, look, this is, because we also take a very keen interest on what your business is. We're not just selling the space, because we're also invested in your business, because if your business succeeds, we also succeed. So there's that initial conversation about, what is it that you're trying to do. So, we realize that maybe for the first 1 year, you're not looking for anything that will be, too heavy in terms of a financial commitment. So there's a couple of ways of doing that. We can give you the flexibility of the amount of space that you will occupy. And also we'll give you flexibility in terms of how long you need to commit. So for instance, you'll be able to take up, it could be a virtual office, which allows you access to a place to work when you're in town for a period of 3 months. And when the 3 months is over, you can walk or you can renew. So that's how it works. Then if you grow, without having to change your address, again, you will say things are looking good. The next 2-3 months, this is what our requirement will be, and we'll make sure that space is available for you when you're ready to grow. It works the other way around. if you come in with a lot of ambition,
you're not too ambitious. You're very ambitious.
You're very ambitious. And, you come in with your whole team, 15, 20 people, and then after 6 months, you realize this isn't working.
Yeah.
We allow you to downsize without having to, again,
sell off the furniture. And change the lease and
change the lease
you sign
and the location.
5-year lease and the location. And
very
all.
important, yeah.
Ian Kabiru, the managing director of Horizons Offices, he's our guest this morning. This is the business that's home to Africa's business. Okay, and as Ian, you're explaining, you have an operation. You're running a business across the African continent. You've got operations in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Lagos, wherever, and you're looking at office spaces. So the place to go to is Think Horizons, because Horizons will afford you that peace of mind. Go set up according to your need. Maybe you just want you're that exploratory stage, and you just sent one guy to be operating from Kenya for the next 3 months as they, go knock into offices and government offices, and they're seeking permits and they're setting up. And so you just need one guy. You'll be able to offer that one guy some flexible office space and a location where they can come. It's a virtual space. Come, operate from there. You have an address and all other things. So when you're writing your documentation, you're saying it's PO box this, it's address this and the other, and you've provided that. Peace of mind. Get the licenses, start expanding now, bring in the other people into the office. And you just come to Ian and say, all right, so now 10 people. And you're able to provide that. How's the uptick of that? I mean, when you look back into the last 14 years and the kind of clients that you've served, are there those that have actually said, you know what, let me stop this whole idea of I've been on a lease. Let me either cancel the lease or run out the lease and come to you?
Oh, yeah. So, 14 years ago, to a lesser extent. But I tell you what has happened is COVID.
Mm-hmm.
COVID changed so many things. Remember, we were all working from home.
Yes.
And some of us thought our businesses were over. Those were tough times because, there was so much uncertainty. We did not know whether we would go back to the office, or if we were going to go back to the office, when we would go back. And in fact, a lot of people thought that the business that we're in was on its way out.
Mm.
But what has actually happened is people learned how to work differently, particularly the large corporates. You're familiar with the concept of hybrid working, where people, some people working at home, some people are coming into the office, and you found that there's a lot of vacant space. So big corporate with a lot of empty desks, and people started thinking afresh about how this whole work thing could be arranged. So those are the sort of people that we're beginning to see. And it's quite interesting because, the inertia around the traditional office, I must have my office, I must have that logo on the building. That is no longer such a necessity for a lot of companies. They're looking at a number of things. They're looking at, obviously, the costs. They're also listening to their employees because, particularly, the Gen Zs who are now thinking about things in a very different way, learned that they could be very effective. They're able to get their work done in a few hours. And then I don't know what they used to do with the rest of their time. But I know some were taking up, side hustles. Some were running 2 jobs. So post-COVID, I think we've seen a lot of disruption. Let's use the word disruption to the concept of the traditional office. And once that has been disrupted, I think it means that the future is going to be a future of constant change.
There's something that, now that you mentioned the Gen Z, the new generation worker and employee. The new generation worker employees, like you said, thinking very differently. They don't want to feel confined to a space, to a desk. They also don't want to feel confined to the same environment and same thinking. And I would guess that in some way that your kind of business model offers them that, because they're working in this space. The next door is a different company, and you have a common area that you're meeting. So there is that whole social aspect that's brought in. Talk about that.
You know what has happened, actually? There's a convergence between their office and, I like to use the broad description is hospitality.
Okay.
So what is the difference between a person who is working at, say, one of the coffee shops, Java, Art Cafe? What is the offering in one of those places? It's basically a place to work.
With Wi-Fi. And
a Wi-Fi.
Have a coffee at your beck and call, right?
You're enjoying your coffee. And if you look at the way the co-working spaces are set up, they're not very different. So one is more skewed to hospitality with a work environment, maybe not perfect, but good enough. And the other is more skewed to the work environment with an offering of hospitality.
The touch of hospitality.
Right?
Yeah.
And so these lines are beginning to get blurred. And I think that is the trend of the future. I think, the need for sitting in a rigid space, working in a structured way, as we go forwards, that is going to change. Yeah. But what is driving it is the whole conversation around work and jobs. What are the jobs of the future going to look like?
What are they going to look like, from what you've seen?
Well, first of all, I think the impact of technology cannot be understated in this. I think the whole idea that we've got tech and is making it easier for us to do jobs, to do our own jobs. This whole conversation around artificial intelligence, for example. There are many jobs that are going to disappear or are going to be dramatically changed, and that then changes, the way that we work, right? So my view is, I think there needs to be a lot more flexibility built into the spaces that are going to be created for work. Flexibility both in terms of access to how much space you're taking or how long it's going to be, but also the kind of work. So if you look at the kind of spaces that are being created, there's a very interesting sort of line that has been drawn between spaces where people want to collaborate. They want what some people call them noisy spaces. People feed off each other's energy. And actually, this is one of the reasons people stopped working at home.
They needed to come back. They needed that vibrancy.
Have you tried working at home?
It's too quiet, man. All my life, I've worked in a very noisy space.
It's either too quiet or it's too noisy.
It's too noisy. Everybody's talking to you at the same time. You can't get anything done.
It's distracting.
Yes, it's distracting.
The wrong kind of distraction.
Well,
so it all depends on personality. It all depends on the nature of work that you're doing. It all depends on, from time to time, what you need. There's some studies that say it's good to mix things up a bit. You want your quiet time, you want your noisy time, because your noisy time maybe gets those creative juices going. And so this that's my crystal ball. I don't have all the answers, but I think that's the way it's going to go.
You see the future being that, right? Being a whole mix of all those things, hospitality within the working space, also being able to offer that kind of atmosphere where you're not feeling like you're confined, but at the same time it's giving you, when you need the peace and quiet,
right,
there's a peace and quiet corner that is clear, there's peace and quiet, and there's the other place where you need to work here and somebody else is, you can throw in a question, City, what do you think? I'm actually working on something. You can collaborate as you work.
You can actually see the evolution. Just look across here.
Open space.
Look at this open space.
Yes.
That's part of the evolution. Look at even the concept of an office building and look at what it has. There's a bank, there's a restaurant, there are all these things. Meaning the opportunity for you to actually congregate, meet, chat, drink coffee. Now,
meet new people.
Look at the evolution. It's a working space. But within that space, not too far away, these services are also available. So, yes, the trajectory of your thinking is actually absolutely accurate, because it wouldn't work if people did not feel it meets a need they have. The social need, given that we are social creatures, that need is met, but at the same time, you actually get to do work. But more importantly, look at an office block and look at the diversity of businesses within an office block. Now here, you've made it even better. It's cozier. It is a working space with different businesses represented. So the interaction that you require with businesses that you may synergize with is even made easier. So essentially, it's slightly better than a one-stop shop. The things you can do just within the place that you're at are very many. This thing that we always had about wanting to book seminars for big places and meetings and what have you. And you see, that's what the Horizon does. You're actually able to do all that with a very small group. The very same thing that you're thinking of, but they're not telling you to book for a day or a week. Half an hour you can have your meeting and you can go your meeting.
Come, do your meeting, go.
Yes.
And you've provided you with everything, a desk, internet.
Everything.
If you needed a video conferencing.
Eat, you will eat. If you want people to drink tea, then drink tea.
Yeah, actually there are a couple other interesting things I'll share with you. I heard you telling us about the traffic earlier on. So we're doing some work on that. And I don't know whether we've taken time to really understand the impact of traffic on our lives. Because the way offices have been organized is an organization will expect everybody to come in and to converge at one point. And we're coming from all over the place.
Different spots, yes.
So on average, and you can work this out for yourself, do you know how much time we are losing on the commute? We're losing approximately, on average, about a month in the year.
What?
Okay.
Sitting in traffic.
Sitting in traffic. And you know how much it costs us? Whether you're taking your car, whether you're taking
Maramoja taxi,
an Uber, 1 month's pay equivalent. Right?
Yep.
And so I think we need to start asking ourselves are we actually doing things the right way? Because there's an alternative way of doing it.
Which is?
But I don't have to go, stop me if I'm wrong, but I don't have to go halfway across wherever to get the thing done. I can be here doing it, and that the world or technology or time has provided that if you needed to see something, I don't have to be with you for you to get that piece of work.
Exactly. So the whole idea of remote work is a very interesting one, because we could be in the same organization, but we're working from
different cities,
different locations, different cities, and I'll come to the city as well, because that's really important. So the idea of multiple locations, right? But you're all virtually working within the same space. The technology can enable that. And so that cost can come down exponentially. And I think some organizations, and we did some work with a big organization, are beginning to see this. They cut down their office space by about 80%. So you can imagine
80% reduction of. Wow.
So there was a saving to the organization.
Yeah.
The impact on the employees. So it's putting money in their pocket, and it's giving them time.
Isn't it an attitude thing also? Africans, if I don't see you, then you're not working. You know, I haven't seen you physically, then you absolutely are not getting it. Exactly. So it's a mindset, isn't it?
Exactly.
We're changing the infrastructure and all of this. Well, not really changing, but reducing on the burden that is on the shoulders of infrastructure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a mindset shift that you have to realize, isn't it?
But that's why COVID was good.
Yeah.
Because it forced us to change our mind. We had no choice. Yeah. And you said something interesting about you don't even have to be in the same country. There's a very big conversation going around. There's a global shortage of talent around the world. There's a global shortage of talent. Apart from one place. You know where I'm going with this.
It's a north versus south conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So the jobs are out there. The employees
Are here.
are here.
Yeah.
Do the employees have to go there to do those jobs?
I hope not.
No, we don't.
You can do the work from here.
It is very possible. And there are certain sectors, and I think there's some initiatives at the moment where we're trying to attract jobs into the country without necessarily
Exporting humans.
humans.
That would then actually talk about the business process outsourcing. We had a similar conversation last year.
Yeah.
So even when you talk about the business process outsourcing, it means that they need space. They need a place to work in. And maybe that's where you also need to look at your sort of business operating from a certain space where you're offering this space for an organization in Germany, in Canada, in the USA, and Kenyan workers are coming to this place and they're working and you're providing everything for them. So you basically are running a US company from a Horizon's office in Nairobi without necessarily having a full-time or an employee coming from the US to come here or a Kenyan going there. Would you require special places to work there?
Very good. And actually that brings me to what I wanted to talk about as well. Our new center that we're opening at Two Rivers. Two Rivers are setting up a special economic zone.
Yes.
You may have heard about that.
Yes.
So it's actually being set up with that specific need in mind. We're setting up some workspaces there. But within that enclave, there will be opportunities for BPOs, and we're actually in conversations with some of them. And these are guys who've seen. This just makes too much sense. I think we had a bit of a false start a few years back. I think
With
you remember.
BPOs, yes.
But it's happening now. We actually have the largest BPO, global BPO, in town at the moment. I don't know whether you know about that, but they've been testing the waters, and we're hopeful. They've liked what they've seen, and they'll push on, because they're operating in places like the Philippines. Do you know how many people are employed in BPO in the Philippines?
Tell us.
1.6 million.
Those are very many people.
Oh. Working in the Philippines, but serving
Exactly.
companies that are in
Exactly.
thousands of kilometers
Exactly.
away. So as Horizon, as you set up that one at Two Rivers, what are you offering? You're offering this office solution. You're taking care of what you call the hospitality, the nuts and bolts.
Right.
I'm giving you the desks, I'm giving you the chairs, I'm giving you the other services, I'm giving you the address, I'm giving you everything. Bring your people, plug, play.
Yeah, so we meet at the point of need. So what we've crafted is a space that can take care of people who need one or two desks at a time, or larger teams, and we can scale up to a BPO that requires 300, 400 workstations. So that flexibility is there. So why is the SEZ interesting? It's there's been over the years a lot of push for people to set up in places like Mauritius. So it's actually bringing that model to Kenya. So it's a tax-free environment
In Kenya.
in Kenya.
There are
I got your
tax-free-
attention. Yes.
Yes, there are tax-free
Because of the
places in
SEZs.
Kenya.
Yeah.
I'm just getting it.
Yeah.
I know SEZ all that. I'm just thinking tax-free. Okay. Please go on, yes.
So there's a raft of tax incentives. You're able to set up without taxes relating to importation of certain items.
Yeah.
Income tax is at a concessionary rate. Dividends can be repatriated. People are allowed to come in and set up with their expertise, so things like work permits. There's a much lower cost base, and particularly on the tax side of things. So the idea is, rather than go and set up, historically a place like Mauritius or one of these other tax havens, you can now set it up in Nairobi. So that's a reality today.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for joining us today. And I see you. We have got to say, so people have now seen the Christmas lights in the studio. This is courtesy of Horizon's offices. And then there's also cake, and your team is here. Hey.
Okay.
Of course, Brian Amulioto had to be around for this. Vutta Glassi.
Oh dear. Okay, thank you.
It's a whole Christmas thing going on here as we come to the conclusion of the show this morning. Ian Kabiru, MD Horizon's offices, coming to talk to us about the future of work. And this is how the future of work is going to look like. People just walking in and... See, I remove this first. But Valisha, mimi sivai. For that reason. For that reason. Yeah? It's Christmas time. And we have Ndu as a singer, we have Brian as a singer, we've got Nancy as a singer. So you come to the mic and you do the singing as you do the
In fact, Brian, why don't you sit here?
Brian, sit there.
Brian,
Sit.
It's nice.
You stand there next to.
take picture.
Yes.
What are we singing?
Joy to the world. I think
Joy
that's
to
the
the
best.
Judge of the world.
Do
Come
we
to
know
the
the-
mic.
do we know the
Come to the
words?
mic, Nancy.
So we're just going to flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
We follow
Should
your
we get started?
Go.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare his room. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing.
Well. Who may have a choir here? Well. Asante sana. So we have cake, we have champagne in the studio, we've got the Christmas tree, courtesy of Horizon's offices. Ian, thank you very much for joining
You're
us
very
today.
welcome. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank
Merry
you so much.
Christmas.
Blessed. Yeah.
Asante sana.
All right.
Yeah, and everybody who's been watching us, we are cutting the cake. We will eat on your behalf and we will share it.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.